Welcome, Twin Flames and Twin Flame Crosswatchers, um, to your November 2023 love reading. I have already done the DF. It just took a bit longer than I expected, so I thought I would break it up into two videos. So if you would like to watch the DF or the beginning of this read, I'll put the link in the description box below. And we're going to move over to the DM. So we're going to go over what the DM is thinking, feeling, and actions or intentions. And that was the same: thinking, feeling, actions or intentions, and then messages from the from the DM over here. So we'll do the same on the DM side. What's the DM thinking? Okay. Hold on. There's just a card down here. So we have the Two of Pentacles and Temperance. Okay. It almost feels like there's these, yeah, the Four of Pentacles in, wow. Okay, so very different from the DF, I'm not going to lie. It actually feels like, DM, it looks like you're starting to see the strength of the DF. It actually feels like you are, it's almost like if the emotion that you had for the DF was kind of put to the side or kind of boxed away, I feel like it's starting to revive itself, but it feels like it's doing it in a way, how do I say this? It's starting small. It's not like there's this big like poof, and you know, there's all this emotion there, because the Four of Pentacles is really holding it back. So I feel like in your headspace there's a certain amount of understanding. I want to say like who the DF is. I want to say like, and there's almost this like lovesick energy here. So it's like it's a peculiar energy, because usually the heart is following something and the head is not, and I feel like it's reversed here. I feel like your head is kind of falling for the DF, but your heart is like, no, we're not going to do that. So we're gonna dig into this a little bit. There's this energy of feeling like someone here is untouchable, unreachable, and not that this person is, you know, like a snobby or off-putting in any type of way. It feels more that it's like there seems to be this like deep, deep compassion coming from you towards the DF. It's that energy of, it's the energy of knowing, DM, I'm stumbling about saying this because I don't want to. It's the energy of the DM seeing just exactly what the DF has been through, and the fact that the DF is still coming through as this really gorgeous energy. If you don't plan to listen to the DF, I'll just give you a very quick recap. The basic energy of it was absolutely like brokenhearted to the point that they have been emotional, like almost dulled inside, like emotionally kind of empty, but they're still doing everything that needs to be done. They're still acting the way they need to act around people because they're not going to put it on anybody. And I feel like the DM is seeing the DF do well and continue to move forward. And it's almost like they're so impressed with how well the DF is handling it. But that's because I'm going to be honest. I feel like, damn, let me ask you a question. Is it possible that because you're falling for the DF now, that you are not paying attention to certain signs that may actually show you that they're not as okay as they're acting like. And it's almost like you may not want to see it. I feel like part of you, if you're falling for somebody, if there are certain, and this is a thing that everybody does, right? So it's not a, knock on you, so to speak. When you are in love with somebody, you tend to see that person through rose-colored glasses to a certain extent, and certain things that don't fall in line with what you currently believe, you can discount. And it's not you personally, it's like that's human nature, right? So I'm going to be honest, I feel like you may not be in a headspace where you're able to really grasp what the DF is going through. And I feel like a big part of it is there may be small things that are kind of tipping you off, but I feel like you're so kind of enamored with them right now that those aren't big enough to deter you from what you're thinking and feeling about the DF right now. However, when I picked up this card, I had like, I'm not doing that again. I definitely feel like you are, I'm going to be honest, I feel like you're trying to hold back and hold on, but it's almost like, I feel like whatever it is that you're holding on to, it's not working. It's the energy of, let's say, for example, back in the day when there were, a lot of kings and queens, and they'd be like, oh, so and so is, the head, or I don't know what they would call it, is the king or queen in name only. I feel like there's a certain element of that here in your heart space. It's almost like here you are and you're like, no, I'm not going to move. I'm not going to move. And then there's this whole tidal wave of emotion that's kind of rushing past you. And I feel like you're just trying to look straight forward, not look to the side, not pay attention to anything that is not that you're, being naive and you're not looking around, but it's like you don't want to acknowledge this huge wave of emotion that you're experiencing. And it doesn't feel like it's out of pride. It feels more like it's out of obstinance, almost like a stubborn attitude. For example, may not be the actual situation, but it's almost like if you feel like someone, excuse me, that the other person should apologize first, or it's almost like, may not be the actual situation, but it's almost like someone may have said something to you that was very hurtful, and for that they should apologize. But it's like what maybe it came out of you, maybe it came out of somebody else, but what that person had to pay for what they said, or the cost of it, or it's almost like how you may have reacted was so much more than what they did. And not that anybody's right or wrong. Okay, yeah, that's not for me to decide. It's almost like you may be holding back on principle alone in your heart space. Absolutely, like not wanting to like apologize first. Not that you have to or anything. It's just the energetics of it, okay? It's almost like you're not going to be the first one to apologize. It's almost like if you're not someone that does that regularly, it's almost like you're going to have to be convinced otherwise for that to happen. Now, I want to be really clear. This is what's going on in your heart, right? Not in your head. In your head, it's a very different story. You're just kind of in love with them. But your heart is in this like, nope. And I feel like this kind of obstinate or this pushback that you're experiencing, I don't know how else to say that, but whatever pushback you're giving right now, and you're saying like, no, I actually feel like this is a long-standing, long-held belief. I feel like it's It's almost like maybe you were taught to a certain extent that that's just what happens, right? I'm hearing like you don't apologize to other people apologize to you. This may not be an easy reading to hear, DM. But it's like, it's that sinking feeling when, like, let's say, for example, um, you're talking to somebody and they say something that like really kind of tips you off, not tips you off, but it really kind of like triggers you and you go off on them. I'm not saying that you have, okay? I'm trying to just describe the energetics of it. And it's like, and you go off on them and then they kind of quietly say one thing that you realize that you misinterpreted what they said. And then you're like, oh, damn it. Right? Like we all do that sometimes. It's just, we're all human. And I feel like, I mean, maybe some people don't, but I'm not perfect. So, and it's like, there's this sinking feeling of realizing that what you said had much more potency, or what you did, whatever it was, it had much more weight to it. I feel like to a certain extent, you may not have realized how much you meant to the DF. So it's almost like you may, in the moment, you may have felt that it was just an argument between two people, maybe not realizing that the things that you said would hit a lot harder, right? It's like they said one thing and then you did whatever you did. And because I feel like you're actually able to cut people to pieces with your words pretty easily, it feels like it was just kind of one thing that stacked on top of another, right? It's like, let's say, for example, y'all were out at dinner or a bar or something, and like you had already had a really long day. The commute had been long. Not that I'm making excuses for anybody, but like it was just one, and then someone had spilled a drink on you. Somebody accidentally hit you in the back of the head with a plate when they walked by. Like it was just one thing after another, another, another. And I feel like, and the DF sat down and made kind of like an offhand comment that normally would be taken very good naturedly, and that was it. And it's like, and then you realize after you've done that, that everything that you just said or did had probably nothing to do with what this person just did. Like maybe they shouldn't have said it or whatever, but the reaction that you had, that it was unwarranted. And it's the sinking feeling that comes with that realization, right? And if it's not that, it just feels like whatever it was that was that you said hurt them so deeply that it's like maybe you meant to kind of like stand up for yourself to a certain extent, but you didn't mean to cut them as deeply as you did with your words, right? So there's this sinking feeling of like, oh, damn it. And I feel like to a certain extent, you may have held back in this energy for so long that's like, well, how do I even do this now? You know what I mean? It's this energetics of like, how would I even fix this? How would I do this? Feeling to a certain extent that it's like, when you said what you said or did what you did, I feel like you wanted nothing more than the DF to just leave, go away. And I feel like there's this wave of energy of like, the DF just, they didn't deserve that. And it's not the cards telling you that. I'm feeling that from you. So your actions or intentions towards the DF is the Empress. So I feel like, from what I'm seeing, it's really interesting. I feel like it's just a big old combination of these two energies, right? So this like loving admiration sort of thing is being combined with this energy of holding back. And so I feel like you are feeling a lot of, sweet feelings and affection, but you're not letting it, sometimes you can feel that coming off of somebody. I feel like you're not allowing it out. You know what I mean? So it's like, um, it's almost like you're holding it in. You're not allowing that energy to kind of extend to the DF. And I feel like that may be part of the reason the DF is feeling so alone. And not that you have to, no one's trying to put anything on you. Okay. It just, that was a really big message here, is that the hardest part for the DF was that they were going through what they were going through and feeling like they had to do it on their own. And I feel like at this time, from what I'm seeing, despite the fact that it's kind of heartbreaking for you, DM, I actually feel like you may stay away. It's almost like you don't want to cause more harm. So you're staying away out of, like, just trying to not protect, but it's like you're just trying to give the DF space. It's almost like you would want nothing more than to, you know, see them comforted. But I feel like you feel that they would not be able to be comforted by you. Okay. So what does the DM want to hear from the DF? I know it might be too late by the time I figure things out. Hold on for a second. I feel like part of you is trying to cope with this maybe being the reality. And it's almost like it would be easier for you, DM, if the DF decided to leave, if the DF decided to like turn away from this connection, right? It feels like it's almost like as long as that connection is strong and you know, relatively unavoidable for both of you, there's a certain it feels like to you, it's almost like, well, there's an onus on me that like I'm going to have to keep an eye on this. I'm going to have to find a way to fix this. But if the DF decides no, then, well, you may have lost the DF. You don't have to figure out how to fix it anymore. Right? And I it's not necessarily coming from cowardice. It feels more that it's like there's this incredible guilt that you're like trying to avoid or trying to it's almost like you haven't quite decided how guilty you're going to feel because the whole situation hasn't played out. Right? So it's almost like if the DF decides that's it, I'm done, there is a certain amount of guilt, but it didn't work out anyway. So it's like it'll be easier to let it go, if that makes sense. What would they actually hear? It says you still hold a place in my heart, but it's reversed. I'm going to be, I mean, there's no avoiding it. I feel like the DF is they are trying to let you go. And I feel like, I'm going to be honest, that feeling that like you feel like they probably wouldn't be able to be comforted by you. I think you're right. From what I'm seeing, I feel like the DF actually has no desire to be comforted by somebody else right now. It's almost like, let's say you guys are in a crowded bar and they walk in and you keep trying to look at them, hoping that they'll look over, but they're not. It's almost like even though energetically, normally they would know that you're there, they can't pick up on it right now because they're just trying to put one foot in front of the other. Okay. So we're just going to pull a kind of what to expect. Okay. So what to expect. Page of Pentacles with the Hermit. I'm going to be honest, it doesn't feel like a whole lot gets moving in any one type of direction. Oh, sorry. My apologies. From what I'm seeing, I feel like, excuse me, I feel like what's actually going to happen, for a second I was thinking like, oh, is somebody else getting involved? I feel like somebody may come in and make an offer to your person, not a romantic offer necessarily, but it's almost like, excuse me, somebody may come in and offer something to the DF that would normally be really exciting for them, or that would normally elicit like a really happy and kind of joyful reaction. But I don't actually see that happening. It's almost like, may not be the actual situation, but it's the energetics of it. It's almost like this person may come in and offer something to the DF. And when you see, and you're like, oh, they're good. Like that's something they've been, excuse me, that's something, excuse me, that's something they've been waiting for. That's going to make them so happy. And they're kind of like, okay, thank you. And then they just put it on the table next to them. They don't even open it or look at it, or it's almost like you can see that something has changed. And it seems to make you feel even further from them. So, I think, I don't want to end it on that note. I try to end on a positive note, but I feel like this is reality. And I feel like you are strong enough and intelligent enough to see it as it is. And yeah, so I think I'll leave it there. I will be doing another reading for Twin Flames in December. So please keep an eye out for that for in the next couple of weeks if you are so inclined. I feel kind of gross for even saying that, so sorry. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you on the next one. Much love. Bye.